The boys
Get on
began
best
by
with
making a
Symphony Men. I
basic
love that
instrumental
expression.
track on their own.
Hi, everyone. Continuing with this Beatles complete journey, today is my time to sit down with All You Need Is Love and dig into it a bit more. I've already done my first listen, and so before we do what I want to do today, let's listen to that. Well, unfortunately, on YouTube, you can't hear it, but for the rest of you, let's watch that now. Tuning in to the BBC, The World, 1967. Here we go. That was a lot of fun the first time around. And now we're going to have some fun exploring it in more detail, as I like to do. But first, I have a few little bits of information, some quotes and things that I found, which I'd like to share with you. Brian Epstein suddenly whirled in and said that we were to represent Britain in a round-the-world hookup, and we'd got to write a song. It was a challenge. We had less than 2 weeks to get it together, and then we learned there were going to be over 300 million people watching it, which was for those days a phenomenal figure. That's something that George Martin once said about the whole project. And Jeff Emmerich said something about it in his book, Here, There, and Everywhere. Gives some first-hand details. A couple of months previously, while we were still wrapped up with the job of completing Pepper, Brian Epstein had made one of his infrequent visits to the studio. With a grandiloquent sweep of his hands, he called for silence. "Boys," he announced, "I have the most fantastic news to report." Everyone's ears perked up. Brian paused for dramatic emphasis. "You have been selected to represent England in a television program which, for the first time ever, will be transmitted live around the world via satellite. The BBC shall actually be filming you making your next record." He looked around the room expectantly, Emmerich continues. I almost thought he was getting ready to take a bow. To his utter dismay, the group's response was to yawn. Ringo fidgeted at the back of the room, anxious to return to the game of chess he was playing with Neil Aspinall, and George resumed tuning his guitar. I can just picture this all going down. John and Paul exchanged blank looks for a moment. Paul didn't seem all that interested. I guess he was probably just too focused on finishing up Pepper. With a distinct lack of enthusiasm, John finally said, "Oh, okay, I'll do something for that." Brian was incensed at their casual reaction. "Aren't you excited? Don't you realize what this means to us? Don't you have any idea how much hard work and effort I put into making this deal?" Lennon cut him off with an acidic comment. "Well, Brian, that's what you get for committing us to doing something without asking us first." So good. Such classic Lennon, too, isn't it? And then another quote by Paul from his Many Years From Now book. "All You Need Is Love" was John's song. I threw in a few ideas, as did the other members of the group, but it was largely ad-libs like singing "She Loves You" or silly little things at the end. We made those up on the spot. The chorus, "All You Need Is Love," is simple, but the verse is quite complex. In fact, I never really understood it. The message is rather complex. I found that interesting because, well, both of those quotes were relevant to me because, first of all, understanding and being reminded how closely this came after the Sgt. Pepper's album really explains to me some of the things about the piece. Secondly, the idea that some of these things were just made up on the spot. Like, I guess it was, I didn't put it down here, but another little quote I found was saying that this "She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah" was thrown in there just spontaneously in the moment on the recording when it was being broadcast. So things like that. It's good for us to remember that this is not all planned and micro-managed beforehand. This is still very much the Beatles in their element. They're such masters of their craft. That's what I love about it. They managed to come up with, okay, John comes up with a vision for the piece, and they each contribute their little bits. It becomes a collaborative effort. But then even in the midst of the high pressure of being so exposed and so visible on air for your performance to so many millions of people around the world, you still have the freedom and you still feel the freedom and the I don't know, should I say the zest, the humor, the fun, the love of creativity, and you feel free enough to just throw stuff in that moment. And it comes out in the piece. It really does. But I found that a nice bit of information about the background and the way the piece came together. Ringo, in the book Beatles Anthology, said, "The writers of the song were masters at hitting the nail on the head." I agree. It was for love. It was for love and bloody peace. It was a fabulous time. I even get excited now when I realize that's what it was for. Peace and love. People putting flowers in guns. So that is Ringo's summary of the entire message. At the same time, Paul is admitting there are some kind of complex things which even I have to struggle to wrap my mind around because, okay, John came up with the lyrics. What can we say? Right off the bat. And I think I picked up on this the first time through, but I wasn't entirely sure. Yes, I did go look it up. Yes, this is the French national anthem. And yes, I've thought about it a bit since I first heard it. This idea. Okay, the Beatles have a chance to present something to practically the whole world. At least as much of the whole world as you could access at one time back then. And they have a massive following. They have fans. They have, they're celebrities. They have an audience. And what should we present? What sort of message should we give? And this is coming straight off of having done Sgt. Pepper's, right? And they've been through this whole, kind of elaborate presentation of all sorts of ideas and playfulness, but also some pretty profound stuff. But now, okay, one song, a short bit, a worldwide audience, live. What are we going to do? Well, of course, John is the one who came up with the idea, and knowing a bit about where John went with his philosophy down the road, it makes sense that to even see him now choosing love. Just simply love. Okay, if I can say one thing to the world, what's it going to be? It's going to be about love, and that love is such a fundamental necessity. And more than that, it solves so many problems. If we can just get hold of this, it would solve so much of our problems. Not just on a personal level, not just on a community level, but also on a societal and worldwide level. It's a universal message. It's universally appropriate. And I think, as simple as it seems, it was a brilliant choice. But then, okay, what are you going to say about love, really? And how are you going to present it to the world? And I love the fact that he chose to start with something kind of nationalistic, march-like, fanfare. We think of national anthems as being a statement of national identity. Well, they are, of course. That's why we think of them that way. But also this sort of triumphant quality, this ownership. These are things that are played at official events. They represent something, some significant identity message for that nation. But it's so interesting that John chose to open something which is meant to be a universal message with a national anthem, the French national anthem. It works because of how he takes it. And actually, why didn't he choose the United States national anthem? Why didn't he choose God Save the Queen? Why didn't he choose, because he's English, right? So why not your own national anthem? He went to France. He chose the French national anthem. And I don't know exactly why he did, but I have this idea of why it fits incredibly well. And that is, maybe I even mentioned it. Maybe the idea crossed my mind when I first listened. But the idea that we have this association about France as being kind of representing romance, love. We even talk about the language as being the language of love, of romance. There's this association with the French and with France as somehow representing something about love that many people around the world, it's not just us, many of us associate at least the French language, if not the French culture and France as a whole. Somehow you put the two together. If you were to do some funny little exercise, words on this side of the page, words on this side of the page, countries here, some characteristics here. And if love were here and France were over here, most probably we'd all draw a line, the whole preschooler exercise. We'd all draw a line. So I think that works incredibly well, far better than, say, God Save the Queen. I mean, that doesn't work. That's not a universal message. It also wouldn't really work to have the United States national anthem or any other national anthem, really. It wouldn't have the same effect. Somehow, this works. But the fanfare quality, the march quality, the militaristic element in it is such an interesting way. It opens this really incredibly confidently. It says, we're owners, we're conquerors, we have an identity. This is an anthem. This is something that we raise our flag and show our flag to the entire world. And somehow it's no longer about France, it's about love. The drum roll. Now, before we get into the cello coming in and the love and all of that, there is a little compositional detail which stands out to me in this piece. And since we're talking about the national anthem, and that's where it comes from, I'm going to go there first. So as we hear this, da-da-dum-bum, this little opening here. In fact, I could even play, let's see. Right? But just this little bit, the pickup. Right? Da-da-dum-bum. Okay, that is the first little bit of this opening, but we hear it showing up in kind of modified ways throughout the piece. It becomes almost not quite a motif, not something that really identifies the piece, but it becomes a little sound bite, a little musical piece of the puzzle, which happens to show up in some interesting ways. For example, when we get, well, let's just get there. For example, here, just in this gap, as we've heard, love, 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 and then we hear da-da-dum. It's kind of a throwback to that opening. It still keeps it this sort of fanfare march feel, even as we're singing this kind of, it's such a chorusy sound. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. I mean, what are we doing? We're just sitting here singing love, love. There's a whole lot more going on, but that's the first thing that happens. So easy to sing. In fact, it's almost like it could be something like Three Blind Mice, right? Three blind mice or hot cross buns. It's the same three notes. It's 3, 2, 1. So simple. But the long sustain, 2 beats long. Love, love, love. And all we have underneath to keep the energy, which blasted out at us through the trumpet opening, is the bit of percussion on the beat and the harpsichord rattling away down there. But when we get to this, da-da-dum, this little anacrusis, this pickup here, da-da-dum, is just a quick reminder that we still have that. It kind of keeps that in our ears. And I love this also. Now it shows up, the same little figure, da-da-dum, da-da-dum. It shows up on different notes, placed differently in the beat. Oh, by the way, the beat, the rhythm. That's another thing which is kind of funny, and I need to get to that too, but let's talk about this first. I mentioned anacrusis pickup, and I've talked about that before. It is a note or few notes that come before the main beat. So we have bum, 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 bum. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, but we have instead pick up 1, 2, pick up 1, 2. So these notes, the pickup, are beforehand, right? Now look what's happening here when we get to this cello bit. Da-da-dum was not a pickup. That was on the beat. So suddenly it's weighted differently. It feels different. It doesn't have that sort of launching us up into a beat. Da-da-dum. It's dum-ba-dum. And then immediately it replays here, second time, as the pickup. Dum-ba-dum, ba-da-dum. And it's such a fun little tweak on this little musical sound bite, as I'm calling it. This 3 notes, da-da-dum, bum. And it happens throughout the piece. If you keep your ears open for it, you'll start spotting it. Oh, there. Oh, there. Sometimes it's on the beat. Sometimes it's a pickup as originally. But it's that little tiny opening of the opening, which keeps this kind of brassy fanfare energy fresh in our ears, even though we really don't hear that a whole lot once we pass the intro of the piece. Just notice how it goes. So triumphant. Such a grand entrance. Now, what did I just do? I just showed you what's happening funny, wonkily with the pulse pattern. As much as this starts in a 4-square military style march fanfare. Da da 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, right? I mean, how much more square could you get? Then, when the main part of the piece comes in, suddenly it loses that square-ish quality. And such a nice way of doing it, softening the edges. He just drops a beat here and there. He says, we're not going to have 4 square all the way. It would sound too aggressive, too bombastic for a song about love, really, which is carrying the message of love. If we keep this militaristic style throughout. And so what he does is he just kind of he says, let me throw in a little 3-4 bar here and there. And it works. And it also keeps this sort of playfulness, and it lets this little bit of pickup business that I was talking about surprise us even more. Because now we're not just a bit disoriented when it comes on the beat, as shown here, but we're also kept on the edge of our seats because how many beats are going to be in this bar exactly? No clue till we hear it. When we get to the end there where it says it's easy, we get a little bit more swingy style. Well, it's been playing in sort of swung pattern to start with, but still has kept quite a square feeling in spite of that. We get into when the bass starts getting a little more lively right in here. It manages to, again, make it a little more juicy, a little more swing style, which comes even more as we continue. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. Those little tapping sounds it sounds like, I don't know, someone's just got a pencil and they're tapping on the desk or something. I'm not sure if it's a something that Ringo's doing on the drums or somebody else is doing in the mix, but some little fiddly wood tapping, like some random woodpecker pecking away in the mix. It's this, well, I say woodpecker because to me, all these little details are softening the anthemic quality. They are giving it a more natural, organic feel. Because this piece, if we were to stick in the style of La Marseillaise at the beginning, it would not work the way it does. But you can't just suddenly drop that march feel. You can't just lose that fanfare quality. Instead, you have to transform it. You have to shape it so that it becomes something else than the French national anthem. And all these little details, like, okay, what came in the bass? The cello first, not the bass. We had the drums, chuck, 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 but then we had the cello, first bass instrument, warming us up. And now these little wooden woodpecker, random peck, peck, here, 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 there. Again, softening the edges, breaking up the angularity and the aggressive element of the national anthem quality that we started with. But you can learn how to play the game. And speaking of softening the march quality, we have to talk about the actual sung part that Lennon is giving here. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. It's in really such a speech pattern style, isn't it? It's hardly sung. What is really sung is the love, love, love. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Nothing really predictable about the way he's singing when we first hear that first verse. Like, it's not just the meter of the words themselves, which is kind of unpredictable as well. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Okay, those feel about equal, don't they? Then the third line comes in and throws us off, as if we thought we'd just found a pattern. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. Oh, that's longer. Wait, where are we now? And then, after that, we might think, okay, well, maybe I can repeat that this time. Maybe it's going to be another match. No, it's easy. Whole different pace, whole different delivery. All of this comes in and transforms and reshapes and sets the feel of the piece. And what I love about it is how that fanfare opening works so well ideologically, but it wouldn't work if it kept on that way. And I love how he just takes it and says, actually, this is just one little tiny piece in this whole elaborate collage of musical ideas. And almost to the point where, as we go through the piece and get towards the end and things become more and more and more complex, we start thinking again, now, why did he start with that brass march? Because the rest of this really isn't the brass march at all. And again, we come back to the wonderful expression of what it can represent when it's linked. But the linking material is subtle, and he takes it gradually so that we don't really feel like it's just patched on at the beginning. Nothing you can make that can't be made. A little bit of brass there again, reminding us of how we began, even starting with that little pickup there. Now, before I get away from this first verse, let's talk again about what we heard first. This that I said was a little bit almost boring. Love, love, love. Love, love, love. Well, you know what he's done? That is actually a complete verse. If you listen to the music, it's the same thing minus his part. So what feels like an introduction is actually a playing of the first verse without any of his commentary lyrics. It's just the chorus behind it. Love, love, love. And then when he comes in, and those voices kind of back off a little bit, they're still there, and they're still singing the same chorus. So it does a funny thing of making the verse feel like a chorus. I love that bit of brass coming in there and changing it. Still brass. So we still have the link tone-wise, instrument-wise to the beginning. But the beginning is so straight and simple. And now we have this ya-ba-dee-dee-dum. You know, it's so jazzy, big band swing, squishy, all those words that I like to use to describe that style. It's just everything comes oozing out of that little handful of notes there. And it's so wonderful because it's the moment at which, okay, he's been softening the edges. They've been softening and you know, gradually transforming, shaping it, becomes something else. But now suddenly it becomes a whole lot more sumptuous and luscious and you know, well, back to my favorite word, squishy. But it's more than just squishy. It's all because it's not just the high trumpets, it's the trombones and it gets a little bit gritty. It's such an earthy feeling, such a down to earth and gritty. It's like somebody coming sliding into first base, you know, with dirt flying and you know, you feel the gravel splashing out. It's great there. But you know what else I notice behind all of that is this little it's just small there, but it gives a little bit of legato, which is much welcomed. It serves kind of the same purpose as same role as, say, the strings. Just a legato line, but it's a little bit more flute-like, isn't it? And that's a smoothing, calming effect. But then whatever is happening in the percussion, and again, is it drums? Is it something else banging? I kind of think it's Ringo on the drums. But there's some real big bang effect here, which is so far back in the mix. But still, it comes pounding through. All you need is love. To me, it sounds like, I don't know, sheet metal flapping in the wind. You know, this sort of incredibly big sound that's off in the distance. And I can't quite make out. Is it just the drums? Is it hand clapping as well? What is it that's making that percussive effect? But it adds a sort of dimensional quality because it feels so big and yet so far off in the distance. It's as if we're now reaching further out in the world and we're hearing and seeing things far away that are incredibly powerful. And that also fits the message of the piece and the whole idea behind the piece. We're reaching around the world, and love is all you need, and love can make incredible things happen. And whatever that sheet metal cracking in the wind is back there, I love it. All you need is love. There's a lot happening there too. And if I were to try to unravel every single layer of this, Well, already I'm struggling with these percussive effects because there are so many layers. And that is where this whole idea of they came straight out of Sgt. Pepper's recording sessions and all the complex and experimental stuff that they did in that. It seems like they're just still, I don't know. Are they still on a sort of energy high from that, where these ideas are just pouring out? It doesn't feel like leftover ideas that they didn't get a chance to use. It feels like they just had all this stuff just pouring out of them every time they turn around, and it feels very much in the style of Sgt. Pepper's album in that way. The exuberance, the incredibly multi-layered music recording that comes out. And so we have all these strings running in here. We have all kinds of stuff happening in the background, and we can reach our ears in as far as we can and try to pull it out. But it works as this fabulous scene and environment that we step into. It's almost like a child in a toy store, right? Where you've got toys stacked floor to ceiling, aisle after aisle after aisle, and it's overwhelming. Where do I turn? I mean, everything comes at me, and it's hard to pick out. And it's that sort of feeling that I get, especially in a passage like this, where it's just abundant. In a way, okay, as a child in a toy store, it's also kind of like the feeling you get when springtime comes and everything is bursting open so rapidly, you feel like you can't take it all in. And that too suits the message. All you need is love. The world will come alive so richly, so colorfully, so abundantly that you can't take it in. All you need is love. Love is all you need. And okay, maybe this is a good point for me to talk a little bit about, to mention, because it's coming up, the idea of the musical quotations in the piece. Most of them come at the end, don't they? Here, I've thought about this. Is this a musical quotation or is it not? What's going on with the strings here? You could say it sounds almost like a Bach-Brandenburg concerto, or you could say it sounds reminiscent of Vivaldi, something. There's not quite enough there for me to say it's quoting this piece, or that composer. But it certainly has a sort of aura about it that feels like it's trying to tell us, oh, hey, yeah, let's go a little bit further back in time. Let's start pulling out the great masters of olden times, Bach, Vivaldi, Corelli, whomever. And that, too, is one of the things that makes me say it feels very linked to Sgt. Pepper's. Because as we got towards the end of that album, I was talking about how it feels like they have not only spanned place, but time as well. And here again, what a great idea. As you're reaching around the world, to tell the world that it doesn't matter what era it is in which you are living. It doesn't matter if it's now, if it was yesterday, if it's tomorrow. It doesn't matter if it's the future, and how do we cope and deal with and prepare for the future, or the past, and how do we work through our collective traumas and prejudices and things that have kept us apart for centuries, for millennia even. Some of the conflicts in the world go back so far and so deep. How do we get past that? And it's as if the Beatles are saying, look, doesn't matter what time you're in. Doesn't matter if you're going back, if you're going forwards, if you're here. This is the core of what you need. This is what you need. This is what you need. And it will meet your needs whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever you are. And this is kind of the first, okay, at the opening, it was the French national anthem. Okay, that's place. They're saying, okay, look, everybody around the world, any nation with any national identity or not, because it's also just about love. But now here, they're bringing in another little element. Not just where, but when. And if your troubles began way back when, well, still, even now, this is what you need. And it warms up here. Now, we've had that declaration, all you need. And as I was saying, this is what you need. Now this chorus is coming in and emphasizing, this is all you need. Can we say it too many times? No. All you need is love. All you need, all you need, all you need, all you need. Here, there, everywhere. All you need. That is the message. And after we come through that with that wonderful brassy, dirty, brassy, splashy, slidey feel that just kind of makes us feel like we are digging our feet in solidly on the earth to get a good grip for whatever it is we're going to be pushing towards next. Then we come to this next verse, and somehow with the strings and everything, it opens up, it gets a little bit more panoramic, perhaps? The strings are just opening up the view before us as if we're looking across a mountain range, a panoramic view, mountains, valleys, lush, verdant landscape, and bringing that whole vision before our eyes. Love is all you need. Now, this keeps coming back. This chorus, this refrain. All you need is love. All you need, all you need. With this wonderful brass and the percussion and the answering voices, everything. It's so great. It's so powerful. It's so energized. It's so zesty. And let's just back away from it for a minute. Because as I'm listening to this piece, thinking also, where does it fit in the Beatles' output and how does it feel linked to what they've done up to now? There are ideas which, I mean, even this whole idea of love. This is the grown-up visionary Beatles, isn't it? This is the Beatles who say, love is the answer for the world. It's the same Beatles who, back when they were young kids just cutting their teeth and fresh on the world stage, were singing, she loves you, yeah, 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 or she loves me, yeah, 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 whatever it is. But there are so many in their output. She loves you, she loves me, I love her, he loves, they love, she loves, all the different love explorations, which I have commented on through my journey, that their topic is so much about love, but it has changed in a way, although it hasn't changed. It's still about love, but now it's less about the individual, personal relationships, and more about the fact that this is something that the whole world needs to experience. But at the same time, this refrain, in its wonderful grittiness and splashiness and earthiness and energy, still wants to say that as much as it is for the whole world, it starts in a very earthy, practical, person to person. This is what it's built on. So the strings are bringing in this idea that it's, there's this wonderful vision available. But at the same time, it is a very person-to-person thing. That if it's not love. And the music itself is what's bringing that out. Because if we look at the lyrics, okay, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Well, as McCartney said, these are a bit more profound and difficult to really wrap our heads around than might first appear. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. It's easy. Love, love, love. All you need is love. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one you can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. It's easy. I noticed that Lennon is using nothing, nothing, nothing. And really think about the statement. There's nothing you can do that can't be done. Okay, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. You might say, well, what's the point of saying that? If I can do it, sure, it can be done. But he's saying more than that. And it becomes a sort of expression. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. It's like he's saying, there are possibilities you haven't dreamed of. And to say that it can't be sung is premature. Because you don't even know what you can do. Nothing you can sing. Do you know what you can sing? You don't know until you've tried, and you don't know until you've seen what you do in the future. There's nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. It's easy. Is it really easy? And so we can get ourselves all wrapped up in these lyrics, but the overall message is you, the person, not just the whole world in one broad sweep, but you. They were singing to each and every one of you that was out there on this broadcast, and by extension, anyone who hears this song. And I feel like that is one of the reasons that this, as much as this is such a far-reaching, visionary idea, even pushing into the land of impossible dreams, if we want to go there. He says, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. Hold on. Don't say it's impossible. And it's you. And the music in this refrain keeps it about you. And I think that also is an important part of the whole messaging of this piece. And I love it that he stacks that with the slidey breath, da 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 da, all together. Now it fits right in, doesn't it? It's as if he's saying this that is so much about you, and you can be the one come sliding into first base in dramatic fashion. You is not just you, but it's all of you. He's speaking to you in a worldwide manner. In a way, he's saying, I propose this anthem, this be the anthem for the entire world, but on a personal level. All together now. Love is all you need. I love the way the strings just climb up the chord. Bum, 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 and then they just sit up there. Bum, bum, bum. They're kind of echoing the same sort of swung rhythm that the bass has been doing all along. But now they're doing it way up at the top. And it's easy to get distracted. In fact, well, let's keep going. Right? Here's another moment where he says, let's get more specific. Let's not just do some oblique, imprecise, non-specific throwback to another time. Let's start calling on specific people and places and things. And what does he do? He picks an invention. I believe it's invention number 8. In F. bum, 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 ba, dee, 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 that J.S. Bach wrote for keyboard. Now, I know that Lennon and the Beatles weren't so deeply versed in the classical music world and information, but they probably didn't know that this was from a collection of works that Bach wrote primarily as teaching material, studies, things for students to learn so that students can learn as a demonstration of good compositional techniques. Well, think about that here. You know, we just got done saying, all you need is love. Now, all together, everybody sing, all you need is love. Now, let's bring in somebody who is recognized as, you know, one of the great heroes of the culture that we've inherited. And not just bring him in, but bring in something he wrote for students. Because you know what? Going back to this, there's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Well, Lennon just said, you don't know that you can sing this, but you can. So all together now, sing, 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 sing. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. Oh, by the way, you know, you're going to learn. Right? That's what he used. That's the invention. But actually, listen. What key are we in here? Bum, bum. Yeah, he's in a different key. So, right, he says, because the piece is in a different key. So it's actually up here. But it's the same song, right? We could put it in any key if we want. We could put it down here. In a way, we could bring that in and say also, it doesn't have to be in the key in which you learned it. You have to be adaptable. You have to fit. You learned it here. Well, actually, you might need to sing it here. Never did that before? Well, all together, let's give it a try. And he brings it in. And of course, the trumpets are playing it now instead of the keyboard. But they start pulling in all these wonderful, and this is where I feel like I need to say again, as I did at the beginning when I was reading the quotes, this, I know some of this was written ahead of time, like this. You can't just have the trumpets throwing this in unplanned. But I know also as we get to the end, there are certain things that were spontaneously thrown in too. I don't know exactly which ones, but the idea is that you can learn to fit in. You can contribute. We have the structure. We have the thing. Nothing you can make that can't be made. Well, we just made it. No one you can save that can't be saved. Well, go give it a try. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. How to be you in time. Even that is a little bit of play on words. How to be you in time. Like, in time for what? Does that mean over time? After some time? At some point in time, you will learn to be you? Or does it mean that you will learn how to be you in time for what is needed? Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be you in time. Or you can learn how to be you and fit in and be in time, be in time with the music, shall we say, to clarify what I'm saying. In other words, you can throw in some things like yesterday and like yeah. It can be you and it can fit. She loves you. Improvisatory, free. That is you. That is what is there, and it will be in time. It will be at the right time. It will be not too late. It will be fitting within the whole scheme of this wonderful world of love, and so on and so forth. I mean, there are so many ways we could take this, and as I said, these things weren't necessarily planned that way. But the music works so incredibly well to express this message, and this is all part of the message. Okay, now I have to say that there is a piece of music in here, which I wasn't aware of because I wasn't very familiar with that music. And I took the time to listen to it this morning so that I could at least have heard it on its own. And here's where it starts to come in. You know what that is? That's Glenn Miller's "In the Mood," which turns out it was a really big hit from the big band swing era. And of course, I'm vaguely familiar with big band swing, but I never really went crazy over it. So it's not, and it's before my time. So that's why I didn't recognize it. But here it is. And clearly it's another saying, all right, we can go back just a few years. It doesn't have to be hundreds of years, but all the different styles, whether it's Bach or whether it's Glenn Miller or whether it's, listen to what comes next. I love this. Listen. Greensleeves. It's in there. It's kind of a little bit funny. Some notes are a little bit odd because they had to make it fit the key, but it's there. You hear it in there, Greensleeves. So what is Greensleeves? Well, that's a folk tune. That's a traditional tune. So now we have music from the god of classical Baroque, Johann Sebastian Bach. We have music from right smack in the middle of the 20th century, the big band swing era with Glenn Miller. We have traditional folk music, Greensleeves, which is such a popular tune that everybody recognizes, sings, and uses some set of lyrics or another. All of this thrown in here. In other words, it's a way of basically I just thought of this cute little rhyme. They drew a circle to cut me out, a heretic, a rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took them in. And it's as if this is the Beatles version of just wrapping their whole arms around the world and taking a big circle and saying, we take you all in, we take you all in, everything, come in here. This is love, and this is the way to win. And okay, let's back up because there were a couple things that I didn't really point out very well here. It's all just tumbling together and flying together. It's like, it's almost like somebody broke open a feather pillow and just hit it up in the air, and they're just reveling in the fun of it all blowing apart and seeing the fact that you can't collect these feathers, and they're just everywhere. And this is what, let's see, who was it that said they wanted to just go crazy at the end? But the idea is that they wanted to be just completely free and just let it disintegrate into a sort of carnival, festival, celebrating love. And they did, and it works incredibly well. And actually that little bit of Bach coming in at the end kind of tightens it together so it doesn't feel like a disintegration, but more an explosion of happiness. And it's all so joyful, so free, and yet so well fitted. It strikes this beautiful balance. And there's something that kind of reminds me as we get into this ending here, and actually throughout the piece, there are things that remind me of something like, say, Yellow Submarine. The childlike atmosphere, the imagination, the fact that we can use our imagination to create a world in our minds. And if we do that, if we can imagine it, we might even be able to work it out in real life. And the fact that, well, if you think back to Yellow Submarine, it was this whole child's vision of a world which, okay, the adults would probably say, that's a swing set. That's your slide, you know, go out, play on the playground. But for the kids, no, it's the sky of blue, the sea of green, is the land of the yellow submarine, and all our friends, and you even hear the brass band, and maybe it's the same brass band, who knows? In fact, yeah, if I think about that, if it's the same brass band, is it the same powerful imagination that children have that has been preserved and is now manifesting itself in this vision for not just the land of the yellow submarine, but a land, a world of love for everybody? I mean, there are some links there which would be fun to explore, and maybe that's just enough to get the conversation started in that direction. And you can add your comments below this video if you wish to chime in your own thoughts. I would love to hear them. So many beautiful things about this piece. We could sum it all up and say, such a campy pastiche of stuff, and okay, it's wild, it comes from this, it comes from that. But when we sit down to really enjoy and give it our attention, rather than trying to label and categorize, and I am not against labeling and categorization, please don't misunderstand. After all, I just labeled the Bach invention and the Greensleeves in this piece, so there. But let's move beyond mere labeling and categorization. Let's really attempt to hear, to see what it is before us. And when we do that, we see something incredibly hopeful, exuberant, well thought out, even if they had a short amount of time to throw it together, even if, as seems the Beatles did, some of their greatest stuff came from the least amount of preparation. That's not really as it seems, but you know, then all of this comes out and gives us an incredible hopefulness, which is important. It wasn't just important then, but also talking about going back to this idea of time and where we are in time. The fact that this has taken us back in time. It has taken us around the world, and it has thrown us forwards in time, because this vision is something that doesn't yet exist in real life all around the world. Perhaps there are places where it does, in small areas, but to actually see it come to life in the whole world, we're not there yet. It's not a reality, and so it's throwing us back and it's pushing us forward. But it is the power of the imagination, of the artistic vision, the power of the mind, and I'm going to say the child's mind, the unspoiled mind, to recognize that there is room for such possibility. And it is a wonderful thing for us here now, at this point in the world, when, regardless of where you live, regardless of your religious or political or other views, most anyone I talk to feels that we are on edge and that this is a perilous time in history. And we feel these pressures and these stresses. And so here again, Beatles are coming back to an even greater audience than they had on that day when it was first broadcast. And the message is still relevant, and the message is still meaningful, and the message is still true. Who was it that said, yes, Ringo, the writers of the song were masters at hitting the nail on the head? Did they ever? This has been a lot of fun to explore this piece here today. There is a lot more which can be said, which can be explored. And I look forward to your comments and contributions. I'll be reading them. I'll see you soon.